Up and running, and Billabong is loud.
Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with our favourite football data expert, Gareth, for our Talking Tactics show, reflecting on Aston Villa 1, Wolves 1. We didn't get beat at Molineux, Gareth. It's not our favourite place, but yeah, I guess we were chatting backstage. A little bit of a frustrating result, to be fair, mate.
Yeah, I was quite frustrated with it. I think, especially as we spoke about after the red card, it was just a little bit sort of not enough cut and thrust, was it? There wasn't like you. I think you pointed out to me. We sort of like we didn't want to lose the game. I think that's the feeling that we got. And I think post European game, I think that's where he wants to be. I think he's sort of more concentrating now on after what happened after the Leisure game. I think he's more concerned about maybe not losing the game, especially away from home at a tough place where we don't have much success.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Well, as always, you've done some amazing analysis for us, so we're going to get into that. Before we do, we are literally on the cusp of 2,500 subscribers, and we are, I think, we're 15 away, something like that. So you guys, you know what to do. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, help us get to 2.5K, and that puts us well on the road to 3K, which would be just, I mean, the support's been crazy. We always say it, Gareth, but yeah, just that little bit more, push us to 2.5K, and then we can push on beyond that. But yeah, like, subscribe, hit your notification bell, and all that jazz. So yeah, let's get into it, mate. Still loads of stuff to talk about in relation to kind of tactics and how we approach the game. So I will just get my screen up, and we'll start off with looking at a back six now. I guess this feeds into that kind of maybe cautious approach, not wanting to lose the game. But what did you spot around kind of Villa setting up like this?
Yeah, obviously we don't see this a great deal now, this back six, do we? Unless we mainly do see this away from home when we're trying to either secure a point or keep the win. This is we don't see it a great deal. And Matty Cash at the top of the picture, obviously I couldn't quite fit him in the screenshot there, but this is essentially the back six where we started in a 4-4-2, Cash on the right in midfield, McGinn on the left. And so those sort of make up the wide positions in that back six, almost like the wing backs, if you like, in that back six. But we were concerned. He was obviously concerned about Wolves' pace out wide. This was why we managed to spread across the pitch, and he was more concerned with sort of them being productive from centres and playing balls through like this. So by having a back six, you naturally narrow the gaps for them to be played into.
Yeah. Well, looking at that, very, very sort of tight, as you say, narrowing those gaps, and you could see it from being at the game, like how we were kind of, set up quite defensively, wary of their pace. And again, looking at this in a slightly different context, a low block you've put in, I guess that was to negate some of the threat in behind that Wolves maybe possess.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's why I wanted to highlight it. It's a sort of a bit of a lower block than what we just saw in the previous time. We can see Cash just at the top of the screen there, above that 0 of the AVL. So, you can sort of see that six spread across. You're trying to narrow gaps, and Wolves didn't exploit it enough. Could they have done? I think we made it really, really difficult. And I was really pleased to see this set up because it was more of a 6-2-2 out of position, if you like. But it was important that they got it right. And Watkins dropping in to almost make that little bit of a 3 in midfield at times was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that we noticed Wolves, and we have noticed over the last few seasons, is they are quite a strong, fairly physical side, and I don't think equally we didn't want to lose that physical battle in midfield as well. And I think kind of bodies in those areas is obviously going to help you with that if you are slightly out muscled, if you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I noticed.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think, like we can see in this one, you've got sort of Kamaru. We see a lot of players, especially players like McGinn and the wider players, they sort of play dual roles a lot of the time, the side in this, different sort of, especially out of possession as well. They can step out wide or they can come in field. So it's a lot of different roles involved. And I think with Kamaru and Luiz, you've got the two there. You've got Diaby and you've got Watkins. So they're central areas. They're sort of they're happy to let Wolves have it there at the back with Dawson. Watkins can either step onto the centre half. Wolves played in a 3-4-3, so we didn't really have to do that much. We could just sit back, we could take it easy, and Watkins could either step out if you needed to, Diaby. And this is what you get when you've got pace up front. So you can either sort of, especially out of position, you can press as and when you want. But it was a relatively easy day for them.
Yeah, yeah. Were you slightly? I mean, I guess I think he might be carrying a bit of a knock, but were you slightly? I wouldn't say. I say disappointed is probably the a too strong a word. But with Diaby, maybe we didn't get the best out of him. Maybe he didn't use that pace or use that kind of. I guess, yeah, use that pace to kind of put more pressure on Wolves. I didn't quite see him having as much influence as what I would have liked him to have.
No, possible. I don't think he trained for the first 2 days of the week, so it might have
Yeah.
something more to do with it. But I think to be honest, Rich, I don't think they wanted to press Wolves high. It didn't ever seem like that intention, did it? It was more of a case of, and I do believe, and though we spoke about it, Wolves being away, I don't think that was his thinking. I really do think it was more of a case of, we're not good. We don't want to lose the game after a Thursday night. I think that is more of it. I don't think it really matters where we are and who we're playing. I think that is more of his thinking. That's the vibe that I got.
Yeah, yeah. Potentially so. Potentially so. I mean, you know how he tinkers with tactics, looks at specific games. Now, this slide you've called allowing space in behind. You can still see that, that strong back line. But what are you noticing here
Yeah.
on this
Yeah,
section?
I don't want people to take this as a negative, allowing space in behind statement, because that's not quite what I mean. What I mean is they're allowing that space in behind, but they've still got that line. That line is really, really good, and it was a lot better in that back 5 or 6 for some reason. I think it's because we can look. You got more players looking across, keeping check, sort of thing. I think Carlos was key to that. You could hear a lot of vocal sort of shouting. I think you were at the game, Rich. I don't know if you ever heard it, but Carlos, I could hear on the screen, very, very vocal in the centre of that in centre of the defence. So, and I think it really worked, and they were happy to allow space in behind, knowing that they had players with pace in that defence to be able to catch them.
Yeah, well, I thought Carlos was really strong actually, and grew into the game as it went on. And yeah, I think he's getting more 90 minutes under his belt, and I think he'll just get stronger and stronger. Fingers crossed. You notice in this back three build up, and that was again something that we looked at. I guess the kind of comfort on the ball that we've got, and maybe Wolves didn't press us as much as maybe other teams would, but it is noticeable to see kind of how Pau Torres, when he gets the ball, he doesn't really even look at the player who is coming to press him, because he knows, like, he's comfortable with how he's controlling it with, like, inside of either foot or outside of one foot, and then where he's passing it. And yeah, that was interesting to see. But yeah, what did you spot with that the back three build up?
Yeah, I thought, like you with Carlos, I thought he was really impressive on the ball on Sunday. And I think you've got 3 ballers, if you like, now at the back there, Consa, Carlos and Pau. And Carlos is really starting to, I think when he finds his feet, after post-injury, I think he'll really be a strong contender for us. And that back 3, you've got 3 really good passers of the ball. And I thought Carlos's passing especially was really, really good on Sunday. But I think the build up with the back 3 is, the transition was really, really good from sort of in and out of position. They did really well in that aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's nice. It's good to see. I mean, Wolves is always going to be a scrappy game, however they want to build it up, a local derby or a derby game or whatever. But and our record at Wolves, as we've already highlighted, so it was always going to be scrappy. But you can definitely see like a sense of these 3, Pau, Carlos, Consa, or certainly for that game, getting a relationship together, because they are good on the ball, and they can. They are comfortable at bringing it out or passing it to each other under pressure. Finally, though, you wanted to look at, Ollie Watkins has grabbed the headlines across the week. He's obviously scored a hat trick against Brighton, got back into the England squad, but you saw a different side to him this on Sunday.
I did, yeah. We didn't see much running in behind, did we? And that's because mainly Wolves sort of play with that back five sort of thing, out of position, very sort of strict regime there, if you like, when they're out, when they haven't got the ball. And I noticed a lot of difference in Watkins, is sort of more tending to stay, hold up, sort of the passes from Carlos, for example. But here we got Pau Torres into Watkins, back to Luis, Diaby's the runner. And I think this was a really sort of a much sort of different sort of thing that we've seen from Watkins and Diaby in a lot of aspects. Sort of both players coming to the ball more, sort of, and I think that was because sort of Wolves tried to play a little bit higher. But it was really interesting to see what I thought. Watkins' hold-up play was really good on Sunday.
Good. Yeah, well, it's difficult for us to see like at the game. I mean, obviously towards the end, he probably should have scored, and he had a cracking effort at the start of the second half. Debatable whether he should have had a penalty in the 91st minute.
It's a penalty. It's definitely a penalty.
There you go. See, if the expert tells us it's definitely a penalty, there we go. But yeah, really, again, really valuable analysis. Different type of game this time round, and obviously, it's good to see us competing physically against a team like Wolves. Organised. It would have just been great to see if we could have nicked it at the end. Looking into that, the passing networks, our usual kind of slides. Was there anything that you spotted any different to how we approach the game this time round?
But I think this shows us, this is really interesting because we can see sort of that back three shape, which we don't get to see it under Emery very often, do we? And no. I think that this is kind of an interesting sort of the way that they're playing out through Carlos and Pau and Digne, which is obviously our preferred route. Cash was almost a bit of a decoy, I felt, a lot of the time, was sort of making those runs, but yet it was more of a pushing Wolves back type and to allow that space further over the other side of the pitch. But yeah, we can interesting to see that you've got Pau, McGinn and Digne involved there. Martinez again quite involved. So something a little bit different from us this time around. I think in a lot of we showed them a bit too much respect almost.
Yeah. I thought we could have really put them under a lot more pressure in that, particularly in that second half. And because we started the game so well, and then they maybe made a couple of tweaks, and then we sort of didn't quite want to stick or twist. But yeah, X threat in terms of the passing, Luca Dean and John McGinn quite high up there. Douglas Luiz again.
Exactly. And
Wolves,
when we refer back to
the first Wolves player is fourth in the list, which is interesting.
Yeah, and what was also I found interesting is that left-hand side that we saw that I spoke about, Digne, McGinn and Douglas Luiz, all top of that XP. So those passes were finding sort of players that in decent areas as well. And they were passing it to players in decent areas. And like you say, Diaby involved as well, Torres again involved. So it's really good to see that. It's really good organisation, I thought.
Awesome. And then just finally, the dreaded XG, which always gets loads of comments about it being crap or being bullshit or whatever. But is there anything that we can kind of get out from this in terms of how we were creating our chances, where our chances were set up?
Well, I mean, look at all those chances inside the 18-yard box for a start. 18 shots, massively underperformed the XG really by just scoring the one goal. And, there was chances there for Watkins. There was chances there for others as well. And it's for me, and I tweeted at the time, it's 2 points lost for me, given the time, the red card. We spoke about that, sort of at least 12 minutes after that red card they had, and they didn't sort of really kick on a little bit. And I was always at the telly going, come on. You could. There didn't seem to be that incentive to do, whether that's tiredness or tactics, I don't know.
Yeah, the disappointing thing for me, actually, again, I keep saying disappointing. It was not disappointing, but what I thought that we could have done a little bit more shrewdly was when there was about 3 or 4 occasions where we kind of passed it into the box, out on the wide area, cut it back to the player on the penalty spot, and they went for the shot straight away. Now we know that Wolves put 3-4 men trying to slide block. Luiz, McGinn are skillful enough players to kind of dummy that shot, roll the sole of the foot over it, whatever it is, to delay, to kind of know that those slide blocks are coming in, and then you could put it into the other corner. I just don't know why the players didn't think to do that after like maybe 2 occasions where the shots were blocked.
Yeah, there were chances to do that. I do agree with you there. I think they could have been a little bit more clever, as you say, and with 18 shots and just the 1 goal scored. And like I say, the locations of those shots were pretty good in general. And I think that's what you're basically saying. You can see they're lower quality XG shots purely for the fact is that the Wolves players are chucking themselves in front of it. If they are doing what you're saying and rolling the ball over, the chances of the XG chance might have been a higher chance, which means you've got obviously a better chance of scoring it. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then kind of the timeline, I think, I guess, looking at the kind of raise at the end of the game, we obviously saw that. Maybe we could have done that earlier on. Like, is that what we're intimating here? Like,
yeah. On reflection, I wish I would have plotted that red card, but was it about 72 minutes?
the red card.
Yeah.
Red card was like 94.
Oh, sorry, 94. So there you go. So
Yeah.
So you can see those...
So that's literally where we went, shit, we could win this.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. Sorry, yeah. So you can clearly see that. Oh, yeah. Sorry. So I'm looking at 72 on the Wolves bit. So you can. I wish I'd have plotted that on that 94. So you've got about sort of 4 or 5 shots after that really sort of. And I thought we were going to go on and win the game. I honestly did. The way I felt, I thought that here we go. They're going to seize it, and they just didn't sort of tend to do that. I think they were happy for a point. I really do.
I actually thought they could have. I thought Leon Bailey looked really sharp when he came on, and I thought he was probably the change to make instead of Zaniolo, and swap them over, like Zaniolo on 82 minutes, but Bailey on at 55 or whenever it was, because I just thought that, yeah, he's playing well at the moment. It was going to be pace that will get beyond them, and yeah, I just thought maybe that sub could have been changed around. I've not been. I like Zaniolo. Don't get me wrong. I think he needs to get used to the Premier League, the pace of it. He's got a physicality about him. He needs a goal. But I thought just in that game, I thought Bailey's direct pace would have really affected them.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say that sort of Zaniolo would be an impact sub, can you? You would say that Leon Bailey is an impact sub, if anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you. I thought they could have just gone with pace. Put all 3 of them and got Diaby, Watkins, and that up top. Put 3 at the back and just gone for it. And just get those crosses into the box from wide areas and do it. I still think we're missing that right-sided sort of cashy crosser of the ball, hybrid left back, right back, whatever you want to call it. I still think they're missing a bit of that to balance that out.
Yeah. Well, look, 5th in the table, in a good position. We've had some tough games. I think people maybe saying Villa have had a fairly easier run into some of the other teams. But we've played some tough teams and we've got the results. So it's a great position to be in. West Ham coming up after the international break. It's going to be another big game, another physical game, I'm sure. But yeah, we're in a good place to strike, these teams after the international break, Gareth.
Yeah, it's just a case. I think a big thing is managing this European sort of this stuff after playing Thursday. So that's how we're going to sort of get through. And I think January will be important in that aspect. If especially we're going to go deep into the competition, I really think that's a big thing. I think now we're sort of starting to see, aren't we, that every game in the Premier League is a big game for us because of where we are. It's quite bizarre, really. So yeah, West Ham's going to be a tricky one here, but then you just don't know, do you?
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Well, I'm sure we will be here to discuss and to delve deeper into the tactical analysis of that game. Hopefully, it's after a win as well. I didn't do this on the last one we did, but where can everyone find you? Usually on Twitter or X, as it's now called. Where can we find you, mate?
Yeah, you can find me at that Grant AJC, where we can argue about XG as much as you like.
Brilliant. Well, look, guys, as I said before, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, help us hit 2.5K, which is just crazy, on the road to 3K. But yeah, get your notifications on so you know when these shows are coming up. We've got more content coming this week. International break is not a break for us, so look out for more shows coming up in the week. Thank you all for watching. Gareth, thank you for your amazing analysis. And as always, everyone, remember, we all follow the Villa. Thanks all.
Up and running, and Villa is loud.